Welcome to Monday Night Live, the weekly training that guides professionals to financial prosperity. Join our community and let's start building your wealth.
So big picture, so we're going to go ahead and start the webinar now,
Gotcha.
and we'll talk about the big picture when I come. Maybe we'll just reverse the order. Maybe we'll talk about the properties first and some of the deciding factors and how do you choose a property if you have more than one to choose from, actually. So big picture is this. There are lots of ways to invest in real estate. Some are active, direct ownership, direct management, and that's where you stand to make the most money, but you also stand to get old faster. And I'm just telling you that just flat out as plainly as I can from a lot of experience. Um, you know, I had at one point I had 250 units. Um, and at that point I wasn't managing myself, but even when you own them directly and you have managers, you still have to manage the managers. Stuff's going to happen. They're going to call on you because they're stumped or something really that's a big decision. And if you weigh all the factors and all the consequences, they're trained to call you on critical decisions, things
Right.
that could result in a court case or dramatic loss of income or destruction to a property, whatever. But in any case, back to what I'm driving at here. So, uh, knowing what I know and going through what I've gone through, and this is my personal opinion, I would probably choose something like fractional ownership as an approach to owning real estate now. But that's just me. If I was starting over again in my 20s, absolutely, I would buy it outright. I would direct own the properties and I would manage them myself. I would do it all over again, the same way. I probably would make some better decisions. The times, thankfully, I made more good decisions than I did bad decisions. And the good decisions profited more than the losses from bad decisions. Everybody goes through it, just like anything in life. You've got to learn, you learn from doing. So I don't regret all that, but it taught me a lot. So as I grew and progressed in my building my portfolio, um, one of the things I learned to do was to buy better properties. So this is another part of the answer to your question, Melanie, is in the early days, I bought less expensive properties that I knew I could improve, I could remodel, raise the rents, get higher paying tenants, and move it from like a C to a C plus or a B property.
Gotcha.
A, B, and A's like luxury, B's right down the middle, bread and butter, White House picket fences, things like that. And then C is generally going to be in the cities, a lot more apartments, a lot more rentals, and they're generally going to be older and they need more work and just a lot more headaches. But those are a lot less expensive per unit. So that it looks on paper like the cash flow is bigger. But here's what I learned. This is what I want everybody to take in here, regardless if you're just starting out or you're a veteran, is over time, buying better properties in better areas will actually earn you more money. They'll go up more in value, the rents will go up more. It'll take time because in the beginning, if you had a timeline, a starting line like at a race, and you had A property, a B property, and a C property, right out of the gate, the C property is probably going to outperform everybody. You're going to just make more cash flow. But over time, because of the age of the property, because of the type of property that it is, and the tenant base you have to work with, you're generally going to have more headaches, right? You have more headaches, um, more problems, more maintenance and repairs, or more transient crowd, people move more vacancies, things like that. So over time, it's like the tortoise and the hare. The C property will not produce, it won't appreciate as much. That's one of the big things. You take an A property, you know, to try to make money in the luxury market, you have to have all cash or a lot of cash because the cost basis relative to the rental income is far greater. So I really don't recommend luxury properties unless you just have a lot of cash and you can buy them for cash, right? But and then they will go up in value and the rents will go up. What the sweet spot is actually the B properties. I mean, they're just regular average neighborhoods. And they're not always single family homes. There's sometimes duplexes and triplexes and fourplexes, but in decent areas where you have driveways and garages and things like that. Remember, the C properties generally have off-street parking. there are no garages, because back when they built those properties, we didn't have cars, right? So the B properties over the long term, and this is true with almost every investor I've ever met that I've been involved in groups with, mastermind groups, just become friends with, all came to the same conclusion. At the end of the day, it's the B properties. There's more people that will want them, more people can afford them. They're built, they're nicely built, all brick, they're, and if you can get them, 1960s or later, you're generally going to have, you know, the same kind of wiring and plumbing that you have today for the most part. There's been some improvements in building techniques, but for the most part, anything mid-60s and higher is going to be pretty good property, right? So any case, now, so far, am I on the right track, Melanie? As far
Yeah,
as,
yeah.
okay,
I was thinking also part two is not the right time, forgive me. We have the opportunity to do single family, multifamily, and then
Yep.
apartments. What about other types of commercial properties, and what made you decide to invest in some or not to? I don't know what your portfolio is like.
yep, okay. If I was starting over today, I would actually lean towards properties that I could rent out on a short-term or mid-term basis. And there's a couple of reasons for that. In the early days, all you had was just regular rentals, and you had some corporate housing is your midterm rentals. Corporate housing is, traveling business person, traveling nurse. They're there for 3 or 6 or 9 months. Generally, you get twice the prevailing rates on your rentals, but there's less wear and tear. They're only showing up by themselves. They come in Monday, they leave on Friday. They're not bringing their families, they're not bringing the dogs. They're just there to work, and they generally are not throwing parties and things like that. So I love the midterm rentals. Um, Short-term rentals are your destination travelers slash business travelers. Destination being people are coming to town for events, for concerts, for sporting events, for because it's a fun town to be in. Like Austin's a great town to be in. It's just fun. New York City, people go to New York City just to go in for the weekend and have fun and go shopping and eat dinner and see a play. So what's interesting about short-term rentals is when Airbnb first came out, I'm thinking, well, they're going to crush it in areas like Florida and California because you're around and you've always got the beach and something going on. But it turns out short-term rentals are doing really well and pretty much everywhere. I mean, in Pittsburgh, you guys know I started going back there again. I'm not living there, but I'm there, more than I was the prior 5 or 8 years. So I know an operator there in Pittsburgh, and nobody would ever think of Pittsburgh as a destination town, but he has a 95% occupancy rate on his Airbnb units. He has a
Wow.
website, yep, where he promotes every sporting event. So you got 3 major sports: football, baseball, and hockey. In Pittsburgh, hockey's right up there with football. They don't have basketball. I wish they did, but they don't. But they do have some major universities that also have football and baseball and hockey and basketball, right? So you got the pro events, the pro sporting events, and the college level events. You've got college graduations, high school graduations, you got weddings, you got funerals. You've got a lot of festivals because it's a very ethnically rich area. You've got, Greek festival, Italian festival, all kinds of stuff. So this guy promotes all of those events all year round, right? And he fills his places up. So he does, and in Pittsburgh, as you might imagine, is a lot cheaper than say Fort Lauderdale or Naples, Florida, or San Diego, California, right?
Right.
So there's websites you can use, by the way, guys. If you guys want to write this down, write down air DNA, the word air, AIR, and then DNA like in your DNA in your body, right? Air DNA. Another one's called Mash Visor. Mash like mashed potatoes, and visor like the visor in your car. Mash Visor. And they'll give you statistics on different areas. You can plug in a property and it'll tell you what the averages are. But it will tell you the averages will scare you because they're going to say, hey, in that area, properties have a 33% occupancy rate, which means it's vacant 2/3 of the time. All that tells me is most of the owners are just doing it as a hobby on the side. They're not really serious operators like Gustavo. Gustavo is the guy I know in Pittsburgh. The serious operators would never tolerate a 33% occupancy rate. They want that thing rented out, 90% of the time. So just bear that in mind. Any case, back to the original question. If I was starting over, that's where I would start. And Melanie, where you are, I'm sure between where you are, you got Lake Travis close by, you've got Schlitterbahn close by, and New Braunfels. I mean, I just think that you would probably do well there. And here's another reason why I like this, guys. It's not just because of the upside potential on the income, but what I'm going to tell you now is just my opinion, and it's not going to happen overnight. It's probably going to take a long time. But I believe that real estate is ultimately heading down the road of more legislation and more regulation, i.e., it's going to go the way of public education, medicine, whatever else you can think of that's pretty much run by the government now. I think housing is going that direction, just my opinion. So if that's the case, traditional rentals are going to be under a lot more government control. Just look at California. I love California. I mean, if I could be out there more than I am now, I would do it because I used to go out there all the time. But the rental rate up, the percentage of renters, when I started teaching there years ago, was about 38% of residents of California, 36% statewide were renters, 36% statewide in California renters. Guess what that percentage is now? The last time I checked was about a year ago. Yeah, it was like 10 times, it was 10%, 46% statistically, the entire state. And that was by now after COVID, it's got to be 48 or 50%. And the legislation, if you look at the policy that's coming out, so in the Bay Area, there's an incentive to build affordable housing. There's a giant need all across the country. It's particularly acute in the Bay Area. So what they're doing is, it's a little bit of a twist on things. They're incentivizing investors and builders to build low-income housing in areas, because remember, builders don't want to build that stuff. They want to build multi-million-dollar luxury homes. That's where they make a lot of their money, in big giant developments. That's where they make their money. They don't make money building rentals. But good builders will always have some rentals in their portfolio. The best builders I've ever met always keep some rentals. But in any case, out there, what they're doing is they're saying, if you builder and you investor build these affordable housing units, whether you rehab a big building or you build a brand new one, we're going to guarantee that you're going to get paid rent. That's their hook. We're going to guarantee rent. Okay. Well, believe me, there's no such thing as a free lunch. And the other thing that they threw in there is they said, however, you cannot decline an applicant for financial reasons if they take the bait. Now think about that. Forget politics, forget everything other than business. Just think purely business right now. What is the one reason we should ever decline anybody for renting a unit? What's the one reason? There's only one reason. What is that reason?
They can't pay.
Financial reasons. That's exactly right. Why would we be irresponsible letting somebody in a place that they can't afford? Just like in sales and lending, we take great care to make sure we've got a good buyer where they can make the payment. So any case, that's the kind of stuff I see coming down the road. Also, there's places, and I'm not knocking any state. I'm just telling you, I've taught in all these states, a lot of classes. I learned every state, every law, all the contracts, everything. Let's just take New Jersey. I'm going to pick on New Jersey because one of my best friends is in New Jersey, and we were talking about this the other day.
Who's that, Chris Christie?
Oh,
No, well, that guy's a character. He's actually an old college friend of mine, and he and his wife have a beautiful, massive home in central or north central New Jersey. Let me get some water, guys. Sorry, just ate. Okay. By the way, sorry my voice was a little bit rough. I was at a concert Friday night. I saw Three Doors Down, and that was pretty awesome. So my voice sounds like I'm tired or something. But in any case, in New Jersey, and this is true in a lot of other big metropolitan areas, Chicago, New York. If you're in rental units there, and you know, you have a tenant that's in there, been there a year, maybe the year plus, and you're ready to remodel it so you can raise the rents. In that state, you can't just ask somebody to leave your unit. They have to be willing to leave. If they don't want to leave, you cannot force them out as long as they're paying their rent. Now, that may sound like not such a bad thing at first, but just ponder on that for a minute, right? You can't get somebody out for financial reasons, right? Not that they're not paying, it's not their problem. They're not having that financial reason. You are. The area's progressed. Rents have gone up. Your rents might be half of what the market value is. Only way to get them at the market value is remodel. And now the tenant all he's got to say is, I'm not leaving, you know? So,
Horrible.
and I'm trying not to be judgmental. I'm just telling you, these are things that we have to contend with that all come down the road in the way of more government control. I mean, if you look at, you think it's rough here in the States, you should see what it's like in Canada. I don't think we have any Canadians on the like, but in Toronto, Ontario is pretty tough. It's the largest, population-wise, the largest province in Canada. In the city of Toronto, it's even tougher than the province. If you want to evict somebody in the wintertime, the court will not let you evict them during the winter months. And not only did I not have to pay rent during the winter months, guess who gets to pay the heating bill?
Wow.
You, the owner. Amen, sister. So this is what I'm saying. You know, now I know a lot of people that invest and do well, but they've gotten used to the fact that sometimes they're gonna take it in the short, so to speak, for a bit. But the money's so good up there over time, it far outweighs the downside. So, and they do a really, really credible deep dive on a scrutinizing applicant. So in any case, what I'm getting at is this. When I see these things happening from traveling all over the US and Canada over all those years, seeing the trend that's been developing, I'm thinking, you know, do I want to own something for 30 more years? Maybe not. Maybe 10 years, maybe 15, maybe 20 years, which is a good window of ownership. And here's why. We know statistically that after 10 years, that's the greatest the resales. When investors sell their properties, most of those occur after 10 years. For me, it was my average hold time was about 12 years. So knowing that, this is what I want to say. I'm trying to tell you, I'm not saying don't buy regular rentals. What I'm saying is just bear in mind, you know, you have a plan to have an exit strategy. What are you going to do in 10 years? Do you want to sell them? Do you want to convert them into midterm and short-term rentals? That's what I recommend. If you can get a good deal on a property now because they're being rented traditionally, grab it. In a couple, 3 years, maybe start to transform it into the short-term and midterm rentals. That would be a smart move because if you buy one that's already being used short-term rentals, chances are they've already jacked the price up, you know? You see what I'm saying? So buy traditional rentals with the idea of converting them down the road. Midterm rentals are easier to do to convert because the laws are more in your favor as far as like length of stay. See, some neighborhoods you can't let anybody. There's neighborhoods where you can't let someone in for less than 30 days. That's considered a short-term rental, right? But that's perfect for midterm rentals. You can get them in there for 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, you know, 270 days. And again, you'll make twice the prevailing rate. So any case now, as far as the type of property, I do like the multifamily, you know, because it's a matter of scalability. I can buy a big apartment building and have one roof, one foundation, you know, one parking lot, you know, it's, you know, one heating source, things like that. Versus owning 100 single family homes. Now, having said that, the downside of owning big multifamily properties is eventually you're going to want to sell. And there's not that many people that can afford a 100-unit apartment complex. You know, it could take you 3 years to sell it. You see what I'm saying? Now, there are alternatives, right? You can create a REIT. You can create your own REIT, right? Raise money in the REIT. You sell shares of the REIT, raise capital from investors, and then the REIT would buy your property. So what, and I've actually helped somebody do this in Philadelphia once. So what happens is this guy was in his late 80s. His children didn't want to have anything to do with the property, and it was student housing. So I said, look, because they didn't want to deal with the management. I said, look, he already had his management team in place. I said, incorporate the management, so it's a business, set up the REIT, right? Sell the shares of the REIT. The REIT buys the property. The REIT would contract with this newly created property management company for the management fees. So this old gentleman got basically cashed out. He got his capital out, right? Because he got shares of the people who bought shares of the REIT provided the money. He was at to pay himself personally for the sale of the properties in the REIT. So he got paid out. Then he got a management fee for the REIT. He got a 1% management fee for managing the REIT, even though he didn't really manage it. And he also got the property management fees for managing the property that he essentially just sold to people that paid him. And you guys see where I'm going with this? That's an amazing exit strategy. Yeah. So that's what's possible, but it is creative, but it also takes you've got to have the right kind of attorney, and you gotta know your stuff. So, but in any case, single family homes, guys, I will tell you, I actually liked having them too. I didn't, generally speaking, I was always about maybe 10 to 20% single family homes, and the rest was all multifamily. But the reason I like the single family homes is because on the exit side, they're easier to sell. I can sell a single family home to all kinds of people, right? But only so many people can afford a four-unit building. The other thing too is I would buy them strategically. I would go and look at the zoning maps, and I would go to the you can Google this stuff if you guys want. We actually teach this. For those of you who are not on the team, we actually teach this stuff. But what you do is you find out where the city or county is going to be spending money. Sometimes they're getting government grants, right? Who remembers a guy named Franco Harris, famous running back from the Pittsburgh Steelers? He passed away about a year ago. Yep. One of the smartest business people you ever meet. I got to meet him one time. He was retired, but we were up in the club section of a football game. And he came out of the bathroom, and of course I couldn't help myself. And he laughed because I was a grown man acting like a kid wanting his autograph. But I told him, I said, I really admire you, because he had just bought a big building east of the city that nobody else was paying attention to. It had windows busted out. It was an old hotel that was run down. And I said, I got to ask you, man, why did you buy that property? He said, good question. He said, because I'm a football player, everybody loves me, and I'm well connected. And one of my friends said, did you know that neighborhood where the old hotel was had just received like a $10 million grant? And he said, well, I think I'll buy that property then, because if they're going to spend $10 million on the neighborhood, surely this property will be worth more. Well, he didn't actually remodel it. What he did is he gutted it. He took everything out, man. I mean, dumpsters were there for months, completely gutted it. And then he sold it for a lot more than what he probably 4 times what he paid for it, to an investor who's going to come in and do all the refurbishing and create some nice housing out of it. So what I'm getting at is, I decided I'm going to do that on my own. And all that data is publicly available. You can Google, government grants, and you'll see, just plug in your area and you'll see what's coming your way, or what was granted, what was approved, what's been applied for. You can even call your city or call the county building or go visit them actually, and get to know them and ask them, where do I find the zoning? You generally, you want to go out. I think they go out 30 years on average. You can find out what they're planning on doing 30 years from now. Now, the comical thing is, you can base your decisions on that, but whatever they think is 30 years could end up taking 50 years. Just be prepared that, stuff gets delayed. But they'll also tell you what's going to happen in 3 years, in 10 years, and 20 years, and so forth. So you can go out and buy land and buy property strategically. Buy single family homes in an area that's like a C+ or a B-, sit on them, rent them out, make some cash flow. And then when the money goes in and they start, and the area turns, it's called gentrification. The property is going to go up in value. You remodel it for a flip and sell it for profit. That's what I was saying a moment ago about single family homes. That's why I bought the single family homes. Number one, I could sell them easily. If I wanted to raise cash fast and I didn't want to take on any more loans, I would just sell the property, right? But I bought some in areas that I thought were going to go through gentrification, and thankfully it paid off. It didn't happen all the time, but enough times it definitely made it worth it. And so I would let the lease run its course, let the people go, fix it up, replace everything, and sell it for a lot more than what I paid for it. I did that several times. It's like a long-term flip. So that's why I like single family homes. The other reason I like single family homes is the folks that rent there generally will do everything. They'll cut the grass, they'll fix stuff, they'll paint. You don't have to lift a finger, you know? And the other thing is they pay all the utilities. You don't pay any utilities on a single family home. But like one caveat here. On lienable items like water and sewage and often garbage are lienable. It's paid through it's paid out of your tax dollars, okay? I mean, you're still paying your monthly bills, but I mean the infrastructure is run by the city or the county or some municipality. And if you don't pay the water bill, they could slap a lien on your property. They can't do that with gas or electric in most parts of the country. I've seen some gas companies that have been able to do that, but for the most part, what I'm getting at is tenants pay everything. The only exception I would do in certain areas where I knew that they lien, I would keep the water bill in my name and invoice to tenant. I would pay it and invoice to tenant and put it in the lease, right? This is really important. You need to put that in the lease. So it's technically part of their rent, right? It's the legal lease agreement. It's part of the lease. They have to reimburse you for the water bill. And if they don't, you could evict them, just like you could evict them for not paying rent. That's the one caveat with single family homes. So
Yeah,
in any case, yeah. Does that help?
That's what we
Guys,
ran.
no?
Yeah, that was great. And that's what I ran into in Michigan. But yeah, very
Yeah.
helpful. Thank you so much.
You know what you can do, Stephanie? Did I ever send you a decision matrix, Stephanie, before? Or Melanie? Sorry, Melanie.
I don't know
Remember
if I have.
decision?
I don't know.
Hey, Beverly, if you could include a decision matrix in tomorrow's email, that would be awesome. So in the decision matrix, guys, your columns are your choices, single family home, duplex, 10-unit building, or you could do, short-term housing, midterm housing, traditional rentals. And then the rows are all the variables: time, energy, money,
Perfect. That's what I
yeah,
need. That's awesome.
exactly. I've used that thing for
Perfect.
a lot of years.
That's exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. And
Hey, Gary,
information.
Gary, one of the things to go along with what you were saying about having the water, I don't know, in some places they have water and garbage separate, but in the Bay Area, they tend to have them combined. So depending on the city, like in Oakland, all my investors keep that in their name, because if your tenant leaves something next to the garbage can that doesn't fit and they don't pick it up, they assess an extra fee to the house. So we had one not too long ago that had 110 garbage lien bills attached to the APN that nobody knew about when we went to go sell it. So you have to be careful with those things.
Yeah, I agree that I had one situation one time. I bought a triplex, and 6 months later, the city that it was a small town, it was a township, was moving their township offices to another location. They were pulling out file cabinets, and some water bills had slipped down behind the cabinets from like 30 years before, and a couple of them had to do with my property. So they sent me this bill, and I said, wait a second, I just paid this. He said, no, you didn't pay this. And I said, I just paid the bill. I paid every time. I don't even wait, I just pay it. I finally went down there. I said, look, I don't understand this. What is going on? They said, well, the truth is we actually found that when we were moving our offices. It's just from like 30 years ago. And I'm like, you're kidding me. You're telling me you're going to make me pay a bill that was 30 years before my ownership. And they said, that's the law. And I said, we'll see about that. So I went to the title company and told them they owed me the money because that my title policy should cover me for that. They said, not necessarily, because when they do title work, when they issue a title, if you read the fine print, I used to own a title company, and this is true. I actually started a title company after this, not for this reason, but I ended up, as one of my lessons is, if it's discoverable, the title company, whatever they protect you against or insure you against, has to be discoverable. And they said because that stuff was stuck behind a file cabinet and nobody knew about it, from their perspective, it was undiscoverable. So I went back to the city, and I had to threaten them to go to court. And the court, of course, was the city court. And I knew the judge. He was a former police officer and a bodybuilder, big dude, 6'9". This dude, I saw people go in his courtroom and cry and wet their pants, all kinds of stuff. This guy was intimidating, you know. He was like, who was the judge from that movie way back in the Cowboy Days? Judge, I forget. The guy was just extremely intimidating. But in any case, um, he told me to let him know if it came, because he would tell them they gotta cover it. It's just not right. In any case, I got that paid for, but sorry to go off on a tangent there, guys. That's a very unusual thing. It probably never happened to you in a million years, but you do have to look at everything, look at every line item. When you look at properties to buy, boy, you want to get the rent rolls, you want to get the profit and loss for the last 3 years, right? And you want to ask them for their Schedule E on their tax returns. The Schedule E deals specifically with the property. Unless it's a corporate owned, then they have Schedule C, but that's not a smart way to own a property, and most people don't do that. But you want to scrutinize everything. And if I smelled any kind of trouble, I got to the point I would just keep digging. You know, I would keep looking, asking, discovering, and finding everything I could. And sure enough, it paid off a lot of times, you know. So in any case, thanks for sharing, guys. Melanie and Dwayne. Any other questions, Melanie? Anything else you can think of?
Not at the
Okay.
moment. Thank you.
Kathy's
Yeah.
got a question in the chat, Gary. What do you recommend to protect yourself against deadbeat tenants?
Don't let them in to begin with.
Mm.
So when you have an applicant for a tenant, okay, remember the only thing that the thing that matters more than anything in that business transaction is someone's ability to pay. Okay. So when you take an application, you want to ask for their current residence where they currently live, in other words, their current landlord and prior landlord. Okay. You always want to do that, and you want to call them both. And what you'll find out is sometimes the current landlord is all too happy to let him go. So, oh darn it, boy, I'm sure sorry to see that guy go. You know what? You're going to have a really good time. Good luck to you, and thanks for you're just. I wish you well. He's a great guy. You know that's BS. Or here's a way I would trick them. Sometimes a tenant would put a fake person on there, like a brother or sister or a friend, right? The name and number for the current landlord. I'll call them up. And let's say they quoted me that they were paying $750 a month in rent. I would, when I was go through the application, I would tell the supposed landlord, I would say, well, it says here that they've been paying $950 a month. They've been paying $950 a month ever since they lived there. Are they paying on time? Oh yeah, $950 every single month, just like clockwork. You know, you've got them, you know. So I learned that trick. So here's what really matters. Call the prior landlord, because they got nothing to lose. They'll tell you, you know what, save yourself the trouble. Don't rent to that person. They're a deadbeat, you know. Now bear in mind, there's laws about this stuff. You have to document everything. You keep every application. Don't ever throw them away. Just because you decline somebody doesn't mean it's over. Keep the application for 3 years, okay? And write down why you decline them, right? So you always want to check out their employment. Absolutely check out their employment. And it needs to be solid history. I mean, you know, preferably 3 years. If it's 1 year of history of their job history, then maybe hopefully the prior job was 3 years. But if they've been jumping around every few months from place to live and place to work, guys, just follow your instincts. That's not good. I'm not saying people that do that aren't good people. That's not what I'm saying. But is that who you want in your unit? Somebody that's going to move away in 3 months when they sign a 1 year lease, you know? So in any case, screening is everything. So we're going to go down a rabbit hole here for a bit, but it's so important. I want to cover it. When you have a vacancy, you post the vacancy online. You know, there's different venues, Facebook Marketplace now. There's Craigslist. If you're in Canada, it's Kijiji. Yeah, Penny Saver, Green Sheet. I don't use the mass publications like the newspapers. They're too expensive and they don't work. So in any case, let's say you're using those venues. What you want to do is I use a separate phone number, typically a landline. People can call, listen to a brief message. If you're calling about the rental unit, I don't tell them which one it is because I might have several of them. If you're calling about the rental unit, please leave your name and number. And please tell me which unit you're calling about, okay? And when are you available for a return call? That's all I would say. And then I call the people back, typically in the evening. Okay. And I would have a telephone questionnaire with me. So while I have them on the phone, it's just like the application, but it's not an application, it's a telephone questionnaire. And I'd have them fill in the blanks. I mean, I'm filling in for them, but where do you work? How long have you lived there? Where do you live? How long have you lived there? And gather all this information and fill in the form. And then I would tell them, if they sounded like a good prospect, I would say, I want you to drive by the unit, right? Just go down the street, make sure it's where you want to live. And then call me back and we'll set the appointment to show the unit. And I would do that all week long. And then everybody that did that, I would tell them, okay, I'm going to show it on Saturday morning. So I usually did 2-hour intervals, 9 to 11, then 11 to 1 and 1 to 3, that kind of thing, at different units. So I would 2 hours per unit. And what I would do is I would schedule people every 15 minutes to a half hour, depending on the size of the unit. If it's a 1-bedroom unit, 2-bedroom, 15 minutes is plenty. But if it's a 3 or 4-bedroom or a house, I would give them easily a half hour. So I would schedule 4 half hours, for, in other words, for a single family home, and 8 15-minute appointments for a little apartment. And one of the cool things that happens is there's some overlap. Some people are late, some people are early, some people don't show up. So that way you're never going to waste your trip, because you know you're always going to have people show up. I never did it in the evenings. Very rarely that I actually do an evening showing, was only because, you know, somebody had to work or something. That's, you know, very rare. But did it on Saturdays, and that's how I did it. And then at the unit, I would have a full application there ready. Okay. And I would have everything I needed. And I would tell them, if they saw the unit and they liked it, I'd say, great, you've got to fill out this application while you're here. Okay. Now they're filling this application out. The next person's coming through. And what does that do? What does that do for you when multiple people see other people seeing the same unit? What does that create in their minds?
FOMO, fear of missing out.
Yeah,
Sense of
scarcity,
urgency.
urgency. Oh yeah, I never had a problem renting any unit. You know, so I would take and I would tell them, I can't prove this now. I've got to take these home, run the applications. But in order to do the application, by the way, they also had to do the security deposit agreement and leave me a check for the security deposit. Okay. And that was mandatory. Because if you let them say, well, you do the application and you let me know later if it works out, then I'll give you the deposit. Nope. I take the deposit and the application fee, 2 different checks, right? One for the application and one for the deposit. Then I run all the applications, line them up, compare them. And what's the number one criteria for choosing the tenant, the right tenant? What's the number one criteria?
Financial ability to pay.
Financial ability to pay. Yep, that's it. And then I would look at, you know, of course, job history. How long have they lived where they live now, right? And the one that there was a winner, I would call them first and say, you know what, I've had 3 applications. You're the front runner because you had the best application, that you had the best credentials as far as job history, the ability to pay, and your number of years where you currently lived. If you want the apartment, you need to let me know now, because I'm going to go ahead and do a mobile deposit on your deposit check, take the property off the market, and you and I have to meet, you know, the next day to sign the lease. Are you okay with that? And if the answer was yes, we were good to go. And then I would notify the other people. I would call them and follow up with an email to let them know why. And sometimes I get some rebuttal and people are upset, and I'd say, look, you know, this is how I have to do it. This is the law. There's no other way to do this. If I had somebody asked me one time, what if you had a dead heat, 2 people exactly the same? And I would say, it's easy. The first person who fill out the application, that person gets it, right? That way then does that sound fair, the way I did that?
Yeah.
Yeah, there is no way that we do it. You know, you can't play favorites. You'll get in trouble doing that kind of stuff. So in any case, that's how I would do it. And by the way, back on the phone interview, let's say I was running a bigger unit, like a 3-bedroom or more. Typically, they're going to have children, right? People that want 3 bedrooms or 4 bedrooms generally have children. So one of the questions I would ask them is, what school district are your children in now, right? And if it was like somewhere, you know, 45 minutes away, I would ask them, I'd say, well, you know, you're just a question. I'm just curious. You know, most people don't want to move their kids out of school. Why are you moving? Now, if they say, well, my husband just took a new job in the North Hills. We don't have a choice. I'm like, good, that's a good answer. But if they said something like, well, my landlord is a jerk, my
Mm.
landlord won't fix anything, that usually means trouble, right? So I'm just telling you, just be aware when they're bashing the landlord. I'm not saying there's not bad, there are some bad landlords, believe it. There are plenty of, but that usually can mean trouble. And so what I would do sometimes, guys, when I would go to meet somebody that signed a lease, if I had any doubt in my mind at all, if it wasn't certain or something, just whatever, I would say, look, I'm actually going to be within a mile of where you currently live. Instead of meeting at the office or you come here, how about if I just stop by? You don't have to go anywhere. You just stay right there in your own home, right? And if they said, I don't really want you coming here, that's a bad sign. you know. But if they would say absolutely sure, I would go there and I would obviously check it out. And hopefully it would be, everything spick and span, clean and put together and everything worked out fine. But if it wasn't like that, I can change, I can tell them, look, this isn't going to work out. My units are spots, spick and span completely. I've got pictures. You can saw the pictures are completely perfect. Um, I'm sorry. And that's legit. That's not discrimination. That's not what that is. That's just you're protecting your, and you gotta have some spine to do that. Believe me, because that's a tough thing to do when you're in somebody else's home. You're basically implying that they're dirty, you know. But if there's stains on the carpet and the carpeting, and there's the kitchen stinks, and there's just no, no, you don't want that. You'll get bed bugs, you'll get roaches, you'll get mice. You don't want that, guys. So you have to be tough, right? You can be charitable personally, right? But in business, you're going to have to make some decisions that aren't going to be easy sometimes. And you got one of the decisions is, are you going to be a profitable business or a charitable organization, scraping by every month? You know, so now those of you who don't know me might think, well, that sounds kind of harsh for Gary. Gary doesn't really talk like that. Maybe once a year I do, but I'm just trying to be frank with you. When I write books, I don't give you all the rosy good stuff. I tell you the stuff that happens that's not so rosy and good, so and you can share it with your clients. We want long-term clients who make good decisions, right? And the only way they can do it is to know the truth. So the truth is you're going to have times where you're going to have to make some tough calls. And I wish I could tell you there was a formula for it. There's not. The book I wrote, Turning Rental Problems into Real Estate Profits, partly was based on this whole subject of how do you make those decisions when I'll give you an example. One place I bought a duplex, the lady that was in there had already been there for 20 something years. Her daughter had grown up and moved out and she was on her own. And then she got really ill, and she couldn't pay her rent. And on my heart, I'm thinking, I can't kick her out. I got to let her stay. And then I thought about it because thankfully in my family of 5 brothers and sisters, 3 are nurses. So, and my son and my oldest brother, who was not, he and I were not the nurses, by the way, obviously. He in Columbus, Ohio, did a census on homeless every year in Columbus. And my son worked the homeless shelter in Pittsburgh for several years. So thankfully I learned, I knew to ask them questions. And so what they were saying was, look, for someone like her, there are programs in place to aid her, right? So that's what I did. I decided I'm going to help her find her way to her next place. And that's exactly what I did. It took a little bit of time, but instead of me just going to court and booting her out, I decided, well, I'm gonna, she can't, obviously she needed help. She needed medical help. So we figured it out, got the place back, fixed it up, rented it out, made money. We had floods one time, horrible floods. I mean, just wiped out whole towns, just mud and silt, places collapsing, basements caving in. It was crazy. And I went down there the day after I was in Chicago when it happened, by the way. And I flew home, flew over Western Pennsylvania, saw all these boats up in the fountains. I mean, it was just looked like chaos, looked like it had been attacked by aliens or something. And the next day I put on, the oldest, dirtiest boots I could find, old pants, drove my truck down there. Thankfully I have 4-wheel drive because I was sliding around in silt like it was on an ice skating rink. And thankfully I thought I should probably bring my deeds to the properties, because how do they know who I am? Just one of those God moments. And thankfully I did, because the National Guard was there, and they said, well, you can't come in here. And I said, well, I own property. I said, well, you got to prove it. And I said, thank goodness I brought all my deeds, and they let me in. Guys, let me tell you, my thought was, I'm going to fix these places up, get them back up in running order, and start making money again. But when you see people wiping off 100-year-old photographs of their grandmother when she was a toddler, right? And they're covered in mud, and they have no gas, no electricity, no water, right? None of that. All that money stuff's out the window. So I just called my main maintenance man. He was my general GC, if you want to call him that. I said, Roger, round up the troops. We need to help these people. Well, half of them were in trouble too. We got about 3 guys lined up, and we went in there, and then the local teachers that closed the schools down and everything. I got to meet some of my kids' teachers. They were in junior high at the time, and made some great relationships. And we helped these people for 3 days. It was hard. I mean, emotionally hard, because trained professionals, ministers were breaking down by the 3rd day. And I would stay till the sun went down, because we couldn't stay after that. And those people, all they had was candles and flashlights, But you know what? For years, I would see people in the grocery stores, in the library. I coached half their kids in soccer, and the kids would see me, and they still call me Coach Wilson. And the first thing they talked about was that. That's what they talked about. And of all the tenants that had to move out, all but one moved back in, because of the way we did that. And the funny thing is, I happen to have flood insurance on the right properties. I didn't have them on some of the properties. There were properties up hills where the water through the storm sewer system was forced up like a straw and went up in people's basements. It was insane. I mean, when people say, I'm not worried about a flood because I'm on top of a mountain, I'm like,
Wow.
yeah, just wait. So in any case, I was telling that the flood insurance. So the insurance, the underwriters were coming through, and the homeowners, they were just stroking checks right on the spot. But the investors like me, they were really scrutinizing. We had to provide all kinds of information, which was great. I was happy to do it. But as crazy as this sounds, I actually made money on the remodeling. Like they let me pay myself 10%. I'm like, are you serious? They said, yeah. And the way they adjusted things, they were adjusting things for far more than what I was paying for stuff.
Wow.
And then I didn't raise the rents, but as you might imagine, the properties were a lot more valuable with all those brand new kitchens and bathrooms and furnaces and water tanks. So at the end of the day, when you do the right thing, God just takes care of you. I don't know how else to put it. I don't know how else to describe it. It's just, I wasn't counting on it. I wasn't planning on it. I was assuming that Wilson's going to be eating 3 hot dogs for about 3 months. That's what I thought, but man, it always works out if you just trust your gut, do the right thing. You got to recognize, here's what it comes down to. We're going to move on here in a second. Learn to listen to what people are telling you, listen to their questions and listen to their answers. Okay. So when somebody's having a hard time and they're saying things like, you know what, Mr. Wilson, I just need a little bit more time. I just filled out 5 more job applications today. I've already updated my resume. As soon as I found I got laid off, I updated my resume right away. I've already got 2 job interviews next week. That person's going to make it. Okay. But the person that says, you know, Mr. Wilson, everything's going to be good. You can trust me because I just bought 7 lottery tickets. Or I've already called my Uncle Bob. He helped me out the last time. Well, when you hear those kind of things, that's not good. And you have to be the business person in those scenarios. And remember this, even though it's hard to do it, right? It is. I'm going to tell you right now, it's hard. Even for the people that deserve it, it's hard to do it. But what I learned from Judge Devonick, that's the big dude I was telling you about. He said, look, you have to do it because if you don't, you're enabling them. You're not teaching them a thing. You're not coaching them. You're not helping them at all, right? You're just perpetuating the problem, right? They've got to learn lessons sometime. It might as well start with you. When he told me that, I felt way better, and he's right. That's how you help people get ahead in life and get out of the rut they're in. You gotta give them responsibility so they can learn responsibility. But if you keep bailing people out, they're never going to learn to be responsible. Are there exceptions? Absolutely. But you make your judgment call. if you tried to help somebody 3 times and it's just not working, you know what? You got to think of yourself and your family. Don't your children want to eat, right? Don't they want to go to college? Isn't that why you bought the property to begin with? So you gotta weigh all that stuff out. And I wish I could, again, tell you there's a formula, but it's not. It's case by case. But at the end of the day, listening to people, listening to the questions they're asking and their answers are given your questions will help you make some good decisions. So, we are way off what we're supposed to talk about tonight. But it's okay. It all started off with a good question from Melanie that has everything to do with what we want to talk about tonight. So any questions on this stuff, guys? Questions, comments?
Yeah,
Words of
Gary.
advice. Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you something about estoppel certificates and how much you use them in comparative to the rent rolls and things that the agents give you on the investment properties. Because
Oh, yeah.
I ask for them all the time. I get a lot of pushback because I
Yeah.
find out from getting the signed ones by the tenant that the tenant bought the refrigerator because the landlord didn't replace it at some point in time in their tenancy. And the
Yep.
rent they're actually paying is different than what's reported. And the deposits are different than what's reported. So I wanted to know in other areas, how many people weigh those and balance those out?
Yeah. A lot of it depends, but I will tell you guys, when you always want to ask for rent roll. Absolutely. Don't ever buy a property unless you get the rent rolls. Okay. And if they say they don't have rent rolls, they're full of crap. Unless it's somebody that just happened to inherit the property yesterday and they don't know where Uncle Bob's records are or whatever. That I understand that, but what you want what's called certified rent rolls, which means the owner, and if the owner says, wait a second, I've never managed a property, the landlord took care of all that, then you get the landlord to also sign. You get them both to sign, and the owner's going to say, sign, however, I never lived there, I never saw the property, blah, 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 blah. Doesn't matter. You want to get a certified rent roll. Okay. Now, estoppel letters, for those of you who haven't heard that term, is it's like if Dwayne's buying a 100-unit building and he was only able to physically view 20 of the units, like 1 unit per building per floor, which is what was agreed upon, something like that. Estoppel letters are absolutely necessary to validate and confirm the current situation, not just the rent, how much you're paying in rent, but how far behind are they in rent? Here's a good, this was a good one, guys. Thankfully, I sniffed this one out. I was buying a property and the title company never read the leases. The bank never read the leases. Thankfully, about 3 days before closing, it was Sunday afternoon. I'm watching football and I'm just like flipping through these papers just because I'm half bored. And I happened to go across the last page where there was this extra paragraph that said that the tenants in the building had all paid not just first month's rent and security deposit. What else did they pay?
Last month?
Last month's rent, first, last, and security, right? Now, a lot of states have started to outlaw this because people were getting burned by it. If I didn't catch that, remember the title company didn't see it, the bank didn't see it. When those people started moving out at the end of their term, they would say, well, we don't owe you rent. And I'd say, what do you mean? They said, we gave it to the last landlord. That was last month's rent. Not a thing you can do about it. You can try to sue them all you want. And you're good luck with that. So I learned to always get estoppel letters, right? And I would put, you want to reward it. Here's how an estoppel letter work. You get to write the estoppel letter, but you generally have to provide it to the owner or the landlord to present it to the tenant, right? And I'm okay with that. They're in charge of their tenants because I don't own the property yet. I get it. But those estoppel letters, originals have to come back to me with original signatures and dates. Okay. And I need
Signed
to
by
get them
the
all.
tenant, right? Signed
Signed
by
by the tenant. Yep, absolutely. Yep. So, and I've already got the owner signature, so I know what that signature looks like. And chances are nobody's going to try to forge 100 signatures. So, in any case, so you would see all kinds of stuff, Dwayne, like you said, that air conditioning unit's mine. The landlord told me if I cut the grass for 4 weeks in a row, he'd give me half a month's rent. All kinds of things come out of there. Make sure that's a really important thing to do. And any step of the way, when the current owner or landlord, or maybe they're both, is rebuttaling and objecting and things like that, and doesn't want to provide this stuff, that's a big red flag. Yep. So good question, Dwayne. Thanks.
Yeah, really good.
Yeah. So let me check here. We got 16 chats in there. You know what's funny? I don't think we talked about this. It's been at least a year, if not more. And whenever I do, I can just look in people's faces and say, man, do I really want to own these properties? But bear this in mind. For every 10 tenants, you'll have one that's a headache. Every 100 you have one, whatever the case is. Just
I-
remember, the good far outweighs the bad, you know? And you learn, it's a real study in human nature, you know? It's a lot to be said for being able to listen to people and understand them. I mean, there's so many stories I could give you. My gosh, I had one building we owned, and we were approached by, it was the Jewish Community Center and Catholic Charities, right? And they had banded together to help sponsor refugee families from Burma and Nepal. Particularly in Burma, a lot of and that's more Chinese, Nepal's more Indian, but they were being, unfortunately, let's just say not treated well because they were trying to learn about Christianity, and they were being ostracized and punished in some cases. So I said, yeah, we'll help you. We'll put them in. We had, it was like 3 building complex. I said, we'll take one of the buildings and we'll just devote it to that. We'll do that. We'll give them a little break in the rent. And what they did was the organization that they built to do this would pay their security deposit and first month's rent, but that's all. And the tenants had to make it on their own after that. And let me tell you that they make it on their own. So this was a great example of giving somebody a fish, because sometimes people just need a damn fish, So teaching them how to fish, So my philosophy is, my primary fundamental belief is teaching people how to fish. That's why I teach. I'm a teacher. I want to teach people how to build wealth and income and be financially independent and financially free ultimately. But at the same time, I know from being a landlord myself, sometimes people need a fish, guys, you know, so you can do both. And that was the case here. Turns out those people were the best tenants. Man, we ended up turning over another building to help, which was, there was so much demand. I mean, it was crazy. And they paid every month on time. They were neat and clean. And the thing is I wanted to get to know them. So one of the first things I noticed is they all put their shoes outside their door. So I said, okay, they don't want people wearing shoes inside their apartment. So I would take my shoes off and I would knock. And sometimes I would just to say, I just want to look at the place. I just want to do an inspection. I just want to say hi. So I got to learn some of their words, like in their culture, a grandmother is extremely important. Probably the most important person in that family is the grandmother. So I learned the word for grandmother, right? And the kids, I would try to learn other words, and the kids used to laugh at me because I butcher that language like crazy. But the thing is um, the Jewish Community Center and Catholic Charities will call me months later, even after I sold the property, and say, we really wish you still own that because those people love you. They thought that was the coolest thing, because you actually took time to get to know them. And every other place, nobody ever took the time to get to know them. The neighbors didn't get to know them. And you know what, guys, kids are kids. They want to play just like your kids. Here's a cool thing. We one family, they were from Bosnia. Remember when Bosnia was being torn apart? So we
Yes.
sponsored a Bosnia family, and we had the family come over to our house to sign the lease and everything. We had 3 Bosnian dialects. There's different books, different translation books you can get. There's so many different dialects. We had a translator there, and we had the other realtor and me and my kids and their kids. Well, within minutes, the kids got together. They're just automatic. They couldn't understand a word of each other, but they ended up in the family room watching SpongeBob, and they all even though SpongeBob was in English, the kids from Bosnia loved it. And I was trying to find out what they want to drink. And I'm saying water, milk, lemonade. Finally, I said, how about a Coke? And they were like, they all knew what Coke was. So, uh, if you think about it, what are we, like 99.97% alike? We're almost 100% identical, all of us. The only thing that's different is about a 32nd of an inch layer across all of our bodies. And that's it. We're all the same. We want to be happy. We want to be at peace. We want to be with the people we love. We want to succeed. We're all the same. So, in any case, great study in human nature. I can't begin to tell you what a joy it's been to be doing this all these years. In any case, let me check the chat box here. Okay. Okay, there's no other questions. How would you guys like to actually analyze a property?
Yes, please.
Okay. All right. Hey, Rob, since I spoke to you first earlier, I spoke to you and Juan both about property. So it's the craziest day. And then when Melanie came up with that question, I'm thinking, definitely God has something to do with this day. He just lined it completely straight up. I didn't, I think I could have just made no plan. So would you mind, Rob, if you shared your screen and we can go through, let's take a, maybe one of the smaller ones. I know there was a portfolio, but maybe one of the smaller ones, you know? We can, so guys, we're gonna break this down, okay? So you can do a desktop financial analysis. You know what's funny? I actually know that guy, Josh Schonenberger. I taught him.
Oh,
Yeah, I taught him 2015 in Harrisonburg. That's
that's
Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. It's right now, Harrisburg. Yep. So how about them apples?
awesome.
Okay, so Rob, you're go ahead and let's go through the rents, okay, that they posted here. And then actually give the description first, you know, 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, that kind of thing. And then let's go over the rents. Then let's look at some expense data. Oh, hey, Rob, you're muted. Did you know that you can participate in class every Monday? We call it Monday Night Live, 7 p.m. Eastern, with me and dozens of other investor agents from around the country, in fact, the world. Every Monday, totally free. No selling, no recruiting, just straight up education on anything and everything in real estate. And we have a lot of good guests coming on once or twice a month, bringing in expertise on subjects like how to buy a house with crypto. Okay. How about them apples? What about AI? How's AI affecting our business? How about the metaverse, blockchain processing? We're already using it in title work. So come on to Monday Night Live, be ready to take notes and ask questions because it's live and engaging and you get to participate by asking questions and meeting others. So we'll see you there. Go to realestateWithGaryWilson.com, click on the resource tab, drop down, and you'll see Monday Night Live. And in there, you can see one of the most recent classes. But more importantly, you can register for class as many as you want going up to like the end of the year, I believe. So in any case, do that. We'll see you on Monday Night Live. Look forward to meeting you in person. Take care.
Oh, sorry about that.
There you go. I thought you were just keeping us in suspense.
Well, maybe a little. But these units here, there are 3 2-bedroom, 1-bath units and one spacious, it says, 1-bedroom, 1-bath unit. So you're looking at 8 bedrooms total here. 6 bathrooms, 4 full baths, 2 half baths, it looks like.
Okay.
These are all individual properties, this whole portfolio, but we just chose this one property, which is 48 to 50 West Ridge Street. Some of these also, like these here, it features 4 residential units and 2 commercial storefronts, including the Main Street staple, whatever that means. You know, Brutch Eye Care Associates. That's your Main Street staple. So you got 2 commercial units, and as you often see up in the Rust Belt and stuff, you get, and St. Louis is the same way, apartments over commercial buildings. These have been, a lot of these units have been remodeled. This is multi units have been renovated with some new appliances, fresh paint, new carpet, new hardwood, and new kitchens. So, and location is right next to a brand new hospital or hospital facility. So it looks like it's in a good location, in a good area. Basically, you have down here, if you look here at the unit information, like unit 6 is a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, 700 square feet. Everything is 700 square feet. Rents are for the this 2-bedroom, it's $1,125. This one, it is only $1,000. And this one here, this must be a commercial unit. I'm thinking, yeah, great office. This one here is not even occupied yet. So 700 square feet, 2 units. So it has 2 offices and then a unitary bathroom. And then you have 2-bedroom, 1-bath over here, 700 square feet. It also is $1,125. This 3.2 even though it says large apartment, they're all the same size, so. One's not any bigger than the other. This here's renting for $12.25. So you can see we got 4 units.
Right.
They're all basically identical, but you've got 3 different rents. So then the last commercial unit is a long-term eye doctor. He's only renting for $570 a month. Well, at those rents, I can see why he would be a long-term renter, right?
Yep.
It's just got 1 office and a bathroom. So
Yeah.
utilities, the heat, the baseboard tenants, baseboard heat, the tenants pay that the baseboard heat, and water's public. Doesn't say they pay that or the owner pays it. Gary, here's what we were talking about today. These here have window air conditioners on public sewer and water. So
Okay.
that's the unit makeup. You got 6 units, 5 occupied, 1 unoccupied. So whatever that works out to, an occupancy rate of what? About 12, 15%, 18% maybe.
Yeah, or vacancies at it. Yeah, the occupancy is 82 or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're asking 550. Okay, this is a 12 plus cap right now at the asking price of 83,100. That's your gross income, and your net is net operating income, or your operating income would be 83,100, your NOI, and then net would be $70,836, and these are annual.
Okay. So if we add up the rents, what does that come out to per month?
1,
If
2,
all the
3,
rents together add up
4.
Oh, per month, Gary?
per just per month? Yeah.
Oh, okay. Cause it's 70,140 for the year.
Okay. All right. So that's just about so 70,140 for the year, and our net operating income is 70,836. That's actually like a 10% cap rate. So I'm not sure. I'll have to call Josh and say, Josh, I'll have to come back to class. Just messed something up here. So tell him I said hello, by the way. I wonder if he'll remember me, you know.
Yeah,
I actually
I haven't spoken to him. I'm not sure if I will.
Yeah.
But if I do, I'll certainly tell him that.
Yep. So at this property here, clearly the rents are a little bit scattered, so there's probably room for some rent increases. That I do agree, when you have retail tenants on the first floor, those are harder to rent, and you definitely want long-term tenants. I mean, you know, like a barber shop, usually they would stay a long time. You know, I can see an eye doctor staying there a long time. It's good to have that kind of stability. Sounds like they're all paying their own heat. If they're paying electric heat, because baseboard heat is electric, that means they're paying their electric bill. So that's good.
Right.
Did they give us any other expense data?
Yeah, if you look like county taxes are $266.44, muni taxes
Okay.
are $403. Trash removal, $0, city trash. I don't understand that, so maybe that's
Probably included in the water bill.
Yeah.
Some cities would be, yeah.
Yeah, so your county assessment, they assessed at 21,897. School taxes, 1409, call it 1410. Not sure what these here title taxes. I'm not sure. 2910, 2909. Second page, you got 500 electric, 1700 water sewer. Let's see here, and $1,500 insurance. And then there's an
Okay.
operating expense of 8109, includes tax, insurance, water, sewer. I don't see any management fees here, but I know the person that they have this, who's managing it, they manage all these units, and they're managing them at $100 a unit. So you figure at 6 units, this is $600 a month management fee, $7,200 a year, just for this building.
I would definitely, because this is another lesson I learned early on. I didn't learn it right away, but I did learn it after I listened to my teacher. my coach is, when you're buying rentals and you're just starting out and you're tempted to manage them yourself, that's okay. I'm actually okay with that because you'll learn a lot and you'll learn what it takes to manage a building. So when you do hire a manager, you'll know how to manage them. You'll know exactly what to expect from them. They're going to know you know what you're doing. Okay. Really important that you have some experience managing one or more of your own units. Now, having said that, the mistake I made was I said, oh, well, I don't have to pay for management, right? I'm already making money as the investor. I'm gonna make more cash flow. Okay. Well, here's where the problem comes in. If you're a good investor, you'll grow and you eventually will need property management. But guess what? When you bought the properties, you didn't account for that in your pro forma. You didn't account for it when you did your due diligence. Whether you paid somebody else or not, it's immaterial. The lesson I learned was that I treated myself as just one person. I'm going to make money on the investment part of it. But if you're going to managing a property is different than owning a property. You making profit is your role as the owner. You made the financial risk of buying the building to begin with. Okay. You get paid for taking that risk. If you're going to manage, you should get paid for that too.
Mhm.
So you should put in, 5, 6, 8, 10% for property management. Even if you're not going to pay for it up front. That's what I'm saying. Make sure you account for it. And if the seller says, well, we don't do that, and they're, you shouldn't do it either. Doesn't matter. Say, I could do it. I could do it from the first day. I could do it 10 years from now. But either way, it has to be accounted for. Because if you don't account for it, then you're cutting into your profit. And you as the owner is not going to be as happy. So after a couple of years, I learned to do that. And I was, getting better at it, making better decisions, buying better properties and belonging into organizations and associations where I meet other people who had a lot more experience than me. That's another thing you should do. If you have a local apartment association, I'm not talking about RIA, like the investor club, you should join that. But there should be an association for apartment owners and managers. Join that and just at least go to the quarterly dinners. Number one, they're fun. You'll meet people, you'll learn a lot from. Here's what I did. First time I went to one, I scanned the room and I looked for the table with the oldest people, right? I know that probably sounds like I'm spreading, but I'm really not because I'm old now, right? But why did I do that? I figured they've been around the longest, they've got the best stories, and I'll learn a lot from them. And that did happen, but not only that, they took me under their wings, right? One guy in particular, Gerhard Flugfelder, this old German guy, um, he can't be alive now. My gosh, he was 75 when I met him, and he was still hustling. He was still working. And he told me, he said, if there's one thing I would do different, I would pay for management. And he said, you need to learn that lesson from me. And he said, do it from your start. I didn't do it from day one. I did it about 3 years in, and it made a huge difference because it freed up a lot of time that allowed me to do a better job investing, right? So I was no longer managing, I was just investing so I could acquire more properties, right? And then that management fee became a smaller portion of the overall profit. Um, in any case, Rob, did you happen to do one of the calculators on this or even the simple?
I did not have the opportunity.
Okay, we can,
Unfortunately.
if you guys want to, we can do, I just call this doing the simple desktop pencil method. What you want to do is you're going to add up, and they've already done it for us in the MLS listing. Let's assume these figures are accurate. Josh did say at the bottom, I saw these are actual plus projected. So on the vacancies, they're putting a projection, right? On the actuals are the actual figures. And assuming their numbers are correct, they've got a $70,000 net operating income. Now you'll notice in net operating income, it doesn't account for a mortgage payment. Okay. That's because the formula is not supposed to account for a mortgage payment. Cash on cash return will. So to get your cap rate, you take the net operating income, okay, yearly, which is 70,836. You divide it by the offering price, which was 550, I think, Rob,
Yeah,
550,000.
550.
Okay, so if you want to do the quick math on that, or somebody has a phone handy and you want to do that, please tell me what that value is. 70,000,
12.87.
12.87. So Josh was right. How about that? I owe Josh an apology. Now that's what they're telling you. something else you should do, this is what Joanne and I were working on earlier, is we actually Googled, average cap rates for this case, it was, uh, Little Rock, Arkansas, sorry, Little Rock, Arkansas. In this case, this is near, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. So you would Google
This near is in Lansford.
Lansford. That's a little bit of ways out there, but you could try the Googling it for Lansford and see what the statistics are. There's usually going to be like an apartment association there that keeps track of all this stuff, and they'll tell you what the market is basically paying out in cap rate. Okay, so that's your cap rate. That's your net operating income divided by the purchase price. All right. Now here's where the tricky part gets in. Calculating what we call cash on cash return. Cash on cash return is literally just like it sounds. It's the cash that you're putting in your pocket versus the cash that you put out of your pocket to buy the property. So what this means is once you've calculated your net operating income, you then need to factor in your principal and interest payment on a mortgage, okay? And you take 12 of those because you have 12 payments a year, and you subtract that sum, 12 monthly payments of principal and interest, you subtract from your net operating income. That's called your cash return, and that's, of course, before taxes. Now you take that figure, and instead of dividing it by the purchase price, you divide it by what you put down on the property. Okay. So let's say, Rob has a client that buys this property for $550. And if they're going to put 20% down, that's 110,000. So you're going to, and let's say their mortgage payment. So that's going to be 440,000 at today's rates is probably going to be, I'm going to guess about 25 to 2,800 a month. Let's say it's 2,500 a month, principal and interest. That's $30,000 a year. So you would subtract 30,000 from the purchase price, right? I'm sorry. You subtract 30,000 from the net operating income, and that gives you 40,000. Now you don't divide the 40,000 into the 550, the total purchase price. You only divide the 40,000, the cash in your pocket, by what you put down, which is 110,000. So can somebody tell me what 40,000 divided by 110,000 is? Should be 30 something percent.
36.
36%.
So that's your cash on cash return. Now every investor on the planet would jump on this deal for a 36% cash on cash return. Most investors are happy to 20% is a home run, 10% is absolute minimum. Cash on cash return, that's minimum. Okay. Now what's interesting, and I'm gonna try to wrap this up here. Cap rate, remember, you really only calculate the property's cap rate to compare it to the cap rate for the area. That's really all you're doing with cap rate. Most investors really don't care much about cap rate. What you do care about is cash on cash return. The cap rate for the area, you can't manipulate it. You can't change it. It is what it is. But cash on cash return, you can manipulate that. You can put less money down. You can put more money down. You could borrow more, borrow less, have a higher interest rate, longer term. On your monthly payment, there's all kinds of things you can do to structure a deal. And this is where you and I come in as investor agents, is helping our clients come up with alternative ways to purchase a property. How can we structure this deal so we have the greatest cash on cash return? Okay. So for example, if you lowered the down payment, you would have a higher monthly mortgage payment, but chances are you would increase your cash on cash return, if you did that. But I know I want to put down 20% because I don't want to pay PMI. I also know that when I go to a bank, see, I don't do hard money. I'm not afraid of private money, but generally I can get better rates at a bank. So I'll put down my 20% because I know a bank's more likely to approve me if I put down 20%. Plus without the PMI, you've got more cash flow coming in, and you got built-in equity. And if you do a good job remodeling the place and raising the rents, in a year's time, it'll be worth more, and you'll have more cash flow, and you can make it easier to qualify for the next purchase. So keep that in mind. Cash on cash return is what most investors try to manipulate to get the greatest cash on cash return. Cap rate just says, yep, this property is in alignment with the area. It's better or it's worse or whatever, you know. I mean, this is one I would probably look further into, just based on what Josh is telling us. I'd do a letter of intent. I'd get the actuals, do the homework, do the due diligence, go check out the property. I mean, if there was a chance, Rob, I could go with you. I mean, we're both in Virginia right now.
Right.
And, but this is right up, honestly, you just hop on 81 and, or you can go up 15 too. There's a number of ways you can get there. But it's not that long of a drive to get there. And I would at least put in an LOI and ask for the financials, see how much they'll give you. Let's do it. Let's you and I get together again, crunch the numbers, and see if it's looks like it's worth pursuing with a real contract and a visit to the property. And I mean, look, the pictures look great. I think the building looks nice.
Mhm.
So that
Hey,
whole area.
Gary?
Oh, that's right. Yes. Yeah.
Gary, in other areas of the country or in your area, on initial entry, are you running into where the lenders have raised it to 25% in? Because most of the ones here in California are saying, look, you could adjust this later, but we want 25% on your entry. And then you got to pull some out later if you want to do that.
Right.
So are you running into that now in this environment?
Yeah. And it's actually been worse before. I've seen, like when money gets tight, see, when the Fed starts raising interest rates, the lenders start tightening their belt a little bit. They're more discerning. They scrutinize things more. They're just not as loose with the money. And one of the things they'll do to protect themselves is so they can still be in business, because they have to lend money to make money, is to require more down. So I've seen as much as 35% down, right? When the last economy started turning, it was dramatic. I mean, was anybody else in the business then besides me?
I
That was some
was.
crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it was, what's funny is the people that stuck it out. This is for everybody here. When the market turns, don't panic. Just keep hustling. I promise you. Be prepared. Do this kind of stuff to prepare yourself so you can work with the investors. And when the economy turns again and comes back out the other end, you're going to be sitting on you're the rock star. Not only did you survive, you thrived. And because you're active in the business and all these people know you, it's going to help your business is going to grow even more, So, but in any case, when it comes to a tight lending market, you can look at alternative ways to structure the deal. So if you had that chapter, creative purchasing techniques, that's a must read. There's like 30 ways to structure deals. You can do, you can do all kinds of, wraparound mortgages. You can do land contracts. You can do lease options. You can do a lease option on a big building, just like you can with a single family home, right? You lease it for a couple of years. You can't make money on it, just let it go. If you're making money, then you go in with a purchase,
Or solar carry back also, if they're willing to do it.
Yeah.
That
I
way
see
you can
carry-
use up that cash on cash variable.
That's it. Yep. You can do a owner carryback. Most lenders will let you do that. Will let you take 10% from the current owner. And as long as their ratio is 75%, that means you're only going to come up with 15%, because you get 10 from the owner, you put in 15, there's your 25%. But you can do one of my favorites right now with rents on the increase is called a rent participation mortgage. So what you do is it's part owner financing. And what you do is you tell the owner for the next 3 years or 5 years, whatever, any increase in rent, I'll split with you 50-50. And that's part of how I'm going to pay you down your share of equity in the property. And the lender's still going to give you a regular 75% mortgage, You can do that. You do that if their rents are low, and it's easy to tell if rents are low. You just look up, there's that website on our website, you have that the HUD link and the website. So on our let me do this real quick. I'll just show you instead of just talking about it. So here's how you tell what the rents are. Average rents. So go to the website. I hope the internet is cooperative tonight. If this takes more than a few seconds, I might ask one of you guys to bring up the website and I'll walk you through it. I just got that your internet connection isn't stable, but it's let me through. Hey, Rob, are you getting pretty good internet out there right now?
Yes, I am.
It looks like I might be okay. If I stumble, I might have you. Here's what I'm doing, guys. I'm going into the website section. Okay. Click on miscellaneous website links. And this is one of the things Joanna and I did earlier. Joanna, are you still on?
Yeah, she's still there.
Yes, I'm
Yeah.
here.
Okay, good. So if you could, Joanna, I know we looked at this. Do you still have the link you found? Oops, did I do the right one? Oh, no, I didn't. Here's side user. Joanna, you know the link you found that determined the cap rates?
Yes,
Do you still have that?
yes, I do. Yes,
All
ma'am.
right, hang on to it. Once I look at this, I'm gonna have you bring that up. So guys, what I'm gonna do is 2023 is still in play. 2024 would be a projection. I'm gonna look at 2022 rental history. This is called FMR, fair market rents. So I'm gonna click on 2022, right? And I'm gonna go to, in this case for Rob, the state of Pennsylvania. And Rob, can you tell me what county that property's in?
I don't know if it said, but let me look here.
Okay, but it's near Allentown, right?
Well, it's Lansford. I don't know where that is. Lansford Borough.
Yeah,
Uh,
because Josh is in Harrisburg. I know that, but that's a couple hours from Allentown and all that.
I'll
But if you
Google it
can,
real quick.
yeah, Google it real quick and let's see, we can look at the county for the county rents. So guys, while Rob's looking up, you can look at the county level, what the average rents are, or you can go to statewide FMRs. These are for specific cities and towns. So I'll just, click on that, for example. So,
It's Carbon County.
okay, let me go back. Carbon, like the mineral carbon.
Yes.
There you go. That's pretty
CARBON.
fitting. Yep. The next screen. So what it gives you for efficiency, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom, and 4 bedroom, the average rents. So Rob, check it out. The rents went up from 2021 to 2022 by a little bit, and they're well over 1,000 a month, 11, almost 1,200 a month.
Right.
Now these are just averages, Rob. I see this to me as a good sign, that
Mhm.
means based on what we saw on what Josh gave you, there's room for growth here, rent
Sure.
increases. Yep. So that's the county level, guys. If you go back here, let's clear counties to statewide. We go back to Pennsylvania. Sorry, hit too many buttons too fast. So state Pennsylvania and statewide FMRs. So that was I'm sorry, what was the town again?
Lansford. LANSFORD.
Yeah, it's not going to be big enough for here. Would you mind doing a quick Google map on that and see what the nearest bigger town is?
Sure.
Because it's either going to be near Harrisburg, or it's going to be up near like Allentown, Strasburg, those kind of areas. For those of you who are new, you don't know me. The reason I know all these areas because I travel the country teaching for 5 years straight, every day, every week, all over the entire country, including well, US and Canada both. So I've actually been, and it's amazing when I meet people, I would say, where are you from? they'll tell me to say, no kidding, I've been there before, you know, so
Well,
in almost
the
every case.
largest big population city is gonna be Harrisburg. Then you've also
Yeah.
got Wilkes-Barre north of it and Scranton as well. I don't know if those are on that list or not, but Harrisburg was the actual closest large city.
Yes, Scranton Wilkesboro's down here. So they're lower. They're $877 a month for a 2-bedroom, right? If you look at Harrisburg, that's $1,074. So I'm thinking where you are, that town is probably more. I bet people live there and commute to Harrisburg to work because their rents for that county were higher than these MSA rents. MSA being, you know, meaningful statistical area.
Yeah,
So
and
they're
it's,
higher than Harrisonburg.
I mean, it's an easy commute to New York, Trenton and Philly
Yep.
as well.
Yep. Yeah, I think I would take a deeper look at that one, Rob, you know.
Okay.
So, hey, Juan, do you want to take a closer look at yours too? I know we looked at it earlier, but we can bring that up too if you want to. Bring yours if you want to.
Okay.
All right. So let me promote you. Hang on one second. Let's see. By the way, if anybody has to go, I understand. I know we're going a little bit long tonight. So Juan, you're co-host now. But if you can stay, I mean, this is, we don't really do this a lot. We do a lot of other like marketing and things like that, but looking at properties and using these tools. I mean, I wish we did this more often because everything's at your fingertips, you know? Okay, so I'm gonna stop my share, John. You should be able to share any second whenever you're ready. And goes, what John's doing that hers was a 10 is a 10 unit she's looking at, and it's in North Little Rock. So we did some digging earlier, and this one looks promising too. Now, this is the website that she found to find the prevailing cap rates. Okay. She, you know, class A, B, and C. So hers is apartmentloanstore.com, Little Rock, Arkansas. You might have something similar to that. But Brittany's asking, are these properties for buyers or for yourselves? A little bit of both, Brittany, you know. So these are definitely we're looking at these on the buy side. And yep. So multifamily, I suggested it where she was. The property, based on the look of it, was definitely a suburban area. It wasn't like in the middle of a town. So I suggested it was a class B multifamily suburban, and the cap rate that was presented to us and that we did the calculation, was around 6%. And that was sort of like not worst case scenario, but based on the low end of what they gave us. So it's still higher than what the market's offering. You know, what's interesting, these cap rates, and some of you probably never been to Little Rock. I've been there before. It's amazing how much different they are than what we just saw from the middle of Pennsylvania. I mean, we're talking less than half, you know. So, any case, so what? All you did, Joanna, you just did a Google. You just Googled cap rates for Little Rock, right?
Yes. For Little Rock, and actually the apartment is in North Little Rock.
Yep. Okay.
And that's all I did, and that's how I found this website.
Okay. You want to show people the property?
Yeah.
You guys, I'm gonna, after this, I'll probably go because I know it's getting late here, but I just want you guys to see this. This is what's out there. That's a nice looking property. You know?
Yeah, this is the
It
property, 850, 10 unit, 2 bedroom, 2 bath. It's located on a cul-de-sac. It's the listing agent told me that it's a 60 million class A property that's close to this property as well.
Okay. Yep,
And
let's see.
go down.
Okay, there's the income,
Mhm.
85,000 a year. Annual expenses. This really, honestly, it's not too much different than what Rob had as far as the income's a little bit higher, right?
Yeah.
Well, the
And
expenses
it's
are a little bit
now
higher too.
fully occupied. It's now fully occupied. And so 2 of the units are renting at 975, which he has on here as the max. And then the other ones are anywhere from, and I'll show, I think I have the rent roll. No,
Okay.
thought I had the rent roll. I'll show the rent roll. Here it is. That's the rent roll that he sent me right there. And so
Yeah,
this
635, 625.
yeah. So there's room, room to increase the rents.
Right. You know what's interesting, Guy? Look at the deposits he's collecting. He's only getting 250. Only one time he got 650. That's a lot of risk, Remember, your security deposit might have to cover a lot of things if things go wrong. So, personally, I always collected a 1 month's equivalent to 1 month's rent security deposit and an additional cleaning fee deposit. And the tenant did a good job cleaning, they got the money back. If they didn't, I had that money to use for the cleaning fee,
So that's probably
So-
something I'd probably ask about that, because you got this guy moved in July 1st with no security deposit, really? At 975?
Yeah.
That's what they said.
I would query that.
Mhm.
Well, and that's one where you might want to do the estoppel letter that we were
Uh-huh.
discussing earlier.
Mhm.
At a minimum, you definitely want certified rent roll. By the way, guys, the reason why you get a rent roll certified is if someone is basically not being completely honest about what they're collecting, you can't fudge a rent roll. You know what I mean? If you fudge the rent roll, and you discover later that they were wrong, there's really not much you can do. Because the judge is going to say, well, why didn't you dig deeper, do more due diligence? So the legal remedy is proactively ask for a certified rent roll. So that means, like we said earlier, the owner / landlord have to sign, they're certifying that is true and accurate information. Here's why this is important. If they're way off or they're clearly were trying to mislead you, it's basically fraud. And if you go to court and you have a certified rent roll, that's them saying this is true and accurate information. Case closed. You're going to win. You absolutely will win. But if you don't, it becomes a he said, she said, and the judge could say, well, isn't it buyer beware, right? Caveat emptor. Emptor is still in most states. That's what the other attorney will do, So just remember that certified rent roll. And if you see window AC units and appliances that don't match each other and stuff like that, I'd probably do the estoppel letter too, So
That's real important, because when we sold the last property in Milwaukee that we had, it was I want to say it was a 40-unit apartment. We relied solely on the management company to provide all of our data, the rent rolls, income, disbursements, reserves, everything. And after the sale, after it was closed, the purchaser came back and said, there's a problem. This income is not what it was supposed to be, or something like that. And we immediately got on with the attorney, and he talked to their attorney, and we put all of that right back on the management company, because that's where we got their information from. And that management company ended up having to correct all that and make good on it. So, and pay our attorney's fees.
Yep.
So yeah, it's real important that you know what's going on. So stay on top of this stuff. I mean, if you're going to own it, you got to stay on top of it. You can't just be a totally 100% passive owner. You've got to inspect what you expect.
Exactly
So,
right.
It's real important to stay on top of this stuff.
Yep.
Or have a manager that you totally trust 100%. And I don't know if there's one of those out there that we should be trusting 100%. I don't know.
I heard there was 2 of them. I heard there's 2 of them still alive.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. So, oh well, that's my humor for tonight. Okay, guys, let's check the chat box here. I know we're getting late, but if you do have questions, I mean,
I have a question.
Yep.
Okay, so my buyer, he's also, I told you the owner is offering, the seller is offering seller financing,
Mhm.
right? Okay,
Yep.
so the listing agent said, okay, that he will not be able to get the the deed, because it's
Mhm.
commercial deed. He won't be able to get it transferred over, the title transferred over until after, full payment. And so my buyer, he's like, no, I want, I want the, turned over at closing. And so, what do I tell him?
Well, really, um, when you write the offer in the sales agreement, you're going to ask for a certain type of title. Quick claim is that you don't want that one.
Mhm.
But generally, a general warranty deed is what you want. The title insurance company, see, they're not going to be able to do a closing and issue title. I mean, if they don't do that, you don't really have a real closing.
Yeah,
So what they're talking about, that's what you do when you buy and sell a car, because a car is mobile. Property is not, it's stationary, it's not going anywhere. So what they're asking is not going to fly. They have to transfer title, and they have to give this, people provide a good deed to the owner. Just because of the lender doesn't mean that this person doesn't get title and get a
yeah.
deed on the property.
I was like, what
So
is he, because he was like, because it's, what did he tell me? He said, commercial deed, the contract deed, he said the title won't transfer.
yeah, he's probably what he's doing then. Um, that's more like he's doing a land title deal, you know,
Mm.
that's different. Um, or there's a couple ways to skin that cat, but if you do like a wraparound mortgage, same kind of thing.
Mhm.
Um,
So that is what we asked him, but he hasn't responded yet. We asked, is this gonna be a wraparound?
right. Yeah, that's clarify that first. I mean, it's
Uh-huh.
definitely in your buyer's best interest to get clean title. Absolutely, 100%. And then the seller becomes simply a lender in that situation.
Yeah,
But
Yeah, and the seller just
see, the
come up,
risk,
having his attorney just do a mortgage on it. Because the
yeah,
seller finance
well,
is
you
just
know,
a seller being the mortgage company's all. Still has
yep,
foreclosure rights and everything else.
yep. There are reasons when you do a land contract, but one of the downsides is let's say they do this, they do a land contract, and then it's a 5-year land contract, and 3 years in, the seller goes through a divorce, or they lose a job and they aren't making their payments, right?
mhm,
Their lender is going to take over the property. They got a first lien position, and your client's going to be out of luck, unfortunately. So
exactly.
that's the downside of doing like a land contract type of thing. At the end of the day, it's always cleaner. Transfer title, so there's a lender involved. That's in this case would be two lenders. Um, because he's not gonna finance the whole thing, right? Or is he? It's 6%?
Yes, he said that
Oh,
he's
the whole
gonna
thing.
finance the whole thing for 5 years, 30-year amortization at 6.5%.
All right. I would let's go ahead and try to get something on this place, because I do think it's worth pursuing.
Mhm.
Try to tie it up, and then we can always negotiate that further. In other words, that's very generous that he's offering that, but it also raises in my mind, well, why is he doing that? You know?
Yeah, well, that's
Um,
what he said too.
yeah. And it could be because he's got tons of other properties, and
He does.
he's
That's what the
anyway.
listing agent said. Listing agent said that he got
Yep.
like a package, and this is just one of the properties, and he said he doesn't have to sell it. That's what he said, but he's just got out here and saying, if he can get anything, or I guess I'll get what he wants.
Yep. Well, I would definitely, if you do the land contract, that's what he's describing to you.
Mhm.
Um, I would definitely have your buyer have an attorney that knows how to do land contracts. And make sure he's got built in some language to protect your buyer if something goes wrong on the seller side during the term, right? During the purchase period, 5 years. There's all kinds of things can happen. I mean, it's just, life happens.
And will I have to, because the buyer, he doesn't live here. So he would need to I would probably have to help him find an attorney here.
Yeah, what you want to do is instead of directly suggesting somebody,
Yeah,
is
give him a list.
find three. So I'd find 3 real estate attorneys. And you know what you could do? Go to your local investor club or get on the website and see who's on the website.
Okay.
Usually have a couple of attorneys. And then just say these are attorneys that are part of the local investor group here. I suggest you call them and please do your own due diligence to protect yourself. That's why you say that. But there's a lot of scams out there, and land contracts are one way that people can easily be scammed.
Mhm.
So you also want to make sure that in the sales agreement, hopefully your buyer's putting some money down, and because you want your commission paid up front. You don't let them talk you into
20% down is what he's asking.
Okay, good. Yeah. Because they'll say, hey, look, since we're doing it this way, can we pay your commission out over the next 5 years? Just say, no, your broker doesn't allow that. It's your pay the listing agent, their listing should stay in there that when they procure a sale, they get paid their full commission. And then therefore they have to pay you because they have to pay the buyer's agent, Okay.
Mhm.
Thanks, Melody. Yep. Good seeing you. Thanks for the good question.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much. I appreciate you.
Yeah. When you guys are out there, if you find something, just let me know. We'll take a look at it,
Sounds good. Thanks.
You're welcome. Yeah.
And then I have one last question. He also, my buyer, another question we've asked, but we haven't gotten the answer to yet, is we were asking if the price was negotiable. I know when we looked at the numbers, we said that it was a, price right, but he's been talking to his lender and he was asking if it's negotiable because he said that the DSCR is, when he did the numbers, it was 1% or something like that. I have to go back. And he said that the lender wouldn't touch it at that.
That's low. Yeah.
Yeah. And so
That's
that's the reason why he wanted to know if he would, if he's negotiable on the price.
That's the debt cover service ratio. So
Yeah. 1.25. He said it won't hit the 1.25. He said, or anywhere close to it at where the numbers are now.
You know what? Ask him to get the lender's figures on that because he might be seeing something like we looked at the income expense and we calculated the cash on cash return and the cap rate. And usually when they're good, the debt coverage ratio is also good, but the debt coverage ratio is what's left over after expenses to pay debt service, So what he's saying, there's just enough money to pay the loan. And that's all, there's nothing left extra. That doesn't sound right based on now, maybe based on these actual rents here. Yeah, that may be true. But remember, when we looked at the website for rents, we came up with 833 is what the rent should be. And he's getting 975 on a couple of them. So he's even got that beat.
Yeah. And I don't know if that was when I did I don't think I had that in the.
Yeah.
But I will ask him to give me the lenders. What did you say?
Yeah, ask for the lenders if he has a calculator. If he can send you an Excel spreadsheet or print it off and just scan it or something, that would be good. Because I want to see sometimes lenders, they'll ignore what the seller's given him for expense data. and they'll
Okay.
plug in an automatic 25% expense ratio right off the top, just flat out, regardless of what people say. That's what they do. That's probably what they did. Some of them on an old building, they'll make it like 40%
Mhm. Okay, so
expense
as
ratio.
for the lenders, whatever the lender spreadsheet that he's using, or?
When he calculated the
Okay,
DCSR, yeah,
okay,
yep.
okay.
Oh, okay.
Well, you think they plug that just number in there as their automated underwriting?
Some of them will do that. Yep. They don't care what people say their numbers are, and they know what they are because remember, they made hundreds of thousands of loans. So they're actually using their own data, historical data. What have the actual expense ratios been for the properties they finance, and they're going to plug that in, you know, and they know newer properties are going to be less and older properties will be more. This one's not that old. It's a beautiful building built in 2000, I think 2004 or something. Not
Yeah,
that old.
2000. Mhm.
Yep. So they should have a lower expense ratio in a building like that. I mean, I that's why I question what the lender came up with. I just want to see what they plugged in, you know.
Where does the
Uh,
spreadsheet come from? Juan?
It's the same, it's similar to what we have. If you look at their website under tools, um, Juan, you want to go to the website real quick since you're sharing your screen? Go to the team's website.
You're not there. Okay, I have it up here. Okay,
Okay. Now click on dashboard. Here you go. Either one of them, yep. And then when it pops up, you want to click on tools. There you go. And scroll down, and the one we want is it's funny whenever somebody shares a screen, they're doing it. I find myself trying to move my mouse around. Okay. The bottom left-hand corner is says rental profit calculator. Click on that or download it. And most commercial people, what Juan's getting ready to show you guys, this is what they use. And it actually has in it the debt coverage ratio at the bottom. So if you scroll down, it's sorry. Let's see, there is a DCR bank. See that debt coverage ratio, whatever that example is 2.072.
That's
That
good.
is it. Yeah, any bank would say, sign me up on that
Yeah,
one.
because they
You
look
know,
at what, 1.25?
1.25 is historical, what they look at, but
Right.
in a tight money market, they can go up to 175,
Mhm.
1.75. I've even seen one bank go to 2.25. You know,
Woo.
yep. So they're just mitigating risk. So that's what they're doing. So,
Yep, that's
yep,
right. They just want to make sure that that debt, the income covers the debt.
exactly right. Yep. So, okay. Well, good job, guys. And I appreciate you both, you know, Juan, Rob, I know Melanie just checked out, and Dwayne for chiming in and participating. That's what makes these classes so good sometimes. It's not me talking, it's you guys sharing what's going on out there in the world, you know. So okay, guys, it's 9 o'clock. I'm gonna go eat a little bit of healthy yogurt, do some reading, and get some sleep so I can start all over again tomorrow. But I appreciate everybody participating. Um, appreciate it, everybody, and I'll see you. We won't have a class next Monday. It's Labor Day Monday, so we'll see you on the 11th. So what we'll do on the 11th, guys, let me just check and see, because we didn't cover, let's see.
You didn't
Right.
follow the itinerary, the agenda tonight.
Yeah, well, not at all. Well, so what we'll do is we're going back to listings on the 11th. We're going to talk about how to make an unsolicited offer. We'll make offers on properties that are not publicly advertised for sale. Unsolicited offer, we'll talk about that. Then we'll also talk about FSBOs and expires and trying to get listings from them relative to like Zoodealio. Sound good?
Sounds good to me.
Okay. You guys have a good rest of the week. I'll see you on the one-on-ones, and hope you have a good, safe and fun Labor Day weekend with your loved ones. Okay.
Likewise, see ya.
Thank you.
All right. All right.
Bye-bye.
God bless you guys.
Thank you for watching this episode of Monday Night Live. Be sure to subscribe to our channel and go to realestatewithgarywilson.com to join our community and start building wealth today.